Hello everyone, welcome to another Stargate lore video. Today we're going to be talking about the Ohnes.
I don't know what you want me to do. I don't understand.
History. The Ohnes are an ancient race, but sadly we don't really know much about their history. We know that at some point in the past, the ancients came to their world and left a Stargate. Their world, also called Ohnes, was one of 3 moons that orbit around a gas giant. It was an ocean world, but with a few pockets of lands created by volcanoes. About a millennia ago, the System Lord Bellos found and attacked Ohnes. He bombarded their underwater cities from orbit and drove the Ohnes to the surface, where they were captured and enslaved by Goa'uld forces. Confident in his victory, Bellos left only a token force left to secure the world, while he took the rest of his forces and his new slaves with him back to Goa'uld space. About a day later, the Ohnes overwhelmed their Jaffa captors and took control of Bellos' ship. Bellos, being a bit of a sore loser, left with his first prime and set the ship to self-destruct, killing thousands of Ohnes and Jaffa on board. At about the same time, the Ohnes on Ohnes had defeated the Jaffa left behind and reclaimed their world. They tried to interrogate the Jaffa to learn the location of Bellos' homeworld, but when that failed, they resorted to using their memory retrieval technology to gain any info they could, which ultimately led to the death of the Jaffa. After this event, many Ohnes decided to leave their world to fight the Goa'uld across the galaxy. We know the name of at least 2 Ohnes that left for Earth, their names being Omaroka and Kell. Assumingly they went with others, but we only know the names of those 2. They showed up on Earth around the time of Babylon and fought against the Goa'uld. Bellos, ironically enough, ultimately killed Omaroka and captured Kell. Kell did manage to get free and try and kill Bellos when Bellos left Earth, and while he did manage to severely damage the host of Bellos, Bellos decided to just use Kell as his new host. Assuming Bellos has not been killed since then, as far as we know, Kell is still a prisoner within his own body. The first time the Ohnes met a Stargate command was in 1997 when SG-1 had traveled to Ohnes. The men owned on the beach who tried to communicate with them in cuneiform, asking if they were from the world that had built Babylon. When Daniel Jackson had responded that they were, the Ohnes stunned them with a psychic blast. This Ohn, named Nem, altered the memories of Jack, Carter, and Teal'c to make them think Daniel had died.
I hope you die in the fire!
He then took Daniel with him and tried to figure out what had happened to Omaroka, because as it turns out, he was Omaroka's mate. Daniel tried to explain to Nem that he could have no possible knowledge on that, as so much knowledge of Babylon had been lost. Although Nem didn't believe him because he believed that SG-1 served the Goa'uld due to the presence of Teal'c's symbiote. Eventually, Daniel convinced Nem to use his memory retrieval technology on him to try and search his memory in case he had read something about Omaroka but had forgotten. Nem didn't really want to do this since it could be very painful and possibly kill Daniel, and Daniel was his only lead on what happened to Omaroka. Daniel pointed out they pretty much had no choice because Daniel wasn't going to remember and Nem wasn't going to let him go. After using said technology, Daniel remembered he had read in an old book that the god Bellos,
false god,
had killed Omaroka, though Daniel had theorized that she had planned the idea of rebelling against the Goa'uld and the humans. At about the same time, SG-1 returned, having retrieved their real memories of what happened to Daniel. However, when they returned, they had seen the situation pretty much diffused, and the 2 groups agreeing to leave, with them saying that maybe in the future the 2 races could work together.
and in time, Daniel, you will find what fate shall reign.
Biology. Biologically, the Ohnes are humanoid but with obvious fish-like features. Despite seemingly being able to breathe outside of the water, they have to spend a minimum of 3 hours underwater each day or suffer from dehydration. As a species, they have an extremely long lifespan, with their oldest being 5,000 years, though their young don't reach maturity until the age of 200. They also, as a species, possess a variety of psychic powers, hinting that they are possibly near ascended or on the verge of becoming ascended. Society. As a society, we know they live with a caste system, with 3 castes: laborers, scholars, and warriors. With hostility with the Goa'uld, some changes have been made to each caste. The laborers represent a majority of Oannes society, and they obviously do the laborer work. Prior to the Goa'uld invasion, most had never left Oannes, but after the invasion, many left with the scholars and warriors to fight against the Goa'uld, typically as freedom fighters. Scholars search and explore the galaxy looking for knowledge and hope that they will unlock the secrets of the universe and its origin. With the Goa'uld invasion, they believe that gathering knowledge is the key to defeating the Goa'uld. The warriors obviously do the fighting and taking up the main fight against the Goa'uld. Their main contribution to this is offering military and covert aid and assistance to worlds the Goa'uld have conquered. Technology. We know the Oannes are very advanced technologically, but we have only a few examples of their tech. One example being a hydrator, a device which allows an Oanne to remain out of the water for long periods of time without needing to return to the water for the 3 hours they usually need to. Another example is their memory technology, which can retrieve or alter memories of a person. However, the process is dangerous and can be harmful. They also appear to have sonic weapons, which we know the name of at least 2. The sonic pistol, which operates very much like a shotgun, sending out a spread of coherent sound. However, because of its sonic nature, damage was reduced by range, with only having an effective range of about 20 feet. Although underwater, it had an effective range of up to 40 feet. The pistol also in general carried about 10 rounds. The sonic rifle operated very much like the sonic pistol, the only difference it had a greater range and carried more ammo, with a range on land being 100 feet, while 200 feet underwater, and carrying about 20 rounds. Relations with other races. The Oannes obviously have very hostile relations with the Goa'uld, as the Goa'uld invaded them and the Oannes now seem to have shifted their entire society into fighting the Goa'uld. This does imply the Oannes would have good relations with races who they've helped liberate from the Goa'uld, or races that actively fight the Goa'uld like the Ritu, but we don't know if they have contact with the Ritu or what races they've helped liberate besides the humans of Earth. As for the Tari, it's hard to tell. Nem said they wouldn't meet again, however they never did, and I don't know how qualified Nem is to speak on behalf of his people, unless he's like their president or king or something. And that was the Oannes. I don't really know how to feel about this race, to be honest. I think they have a cool design and they have a kind of coolish backstory, but they were only in 1 episode of the show. And they kind of fall in this category of races I've noticed that Stargate created where it's like, they fight against the Goa'uld, but they only appear in like 1 or 2 episodes and are never referenced ever again.